Orion's Islands, this would have come from the site, oneofwisdom.com. He found heroic challenges repetitive but ultimately more pleasing as he could build up abilities qualities the Skylander might be weakened, i.e. doing all the speed challenges for a slow Skylander, which in turn made our Skylander collection more personalized. New information on that. They are not talking about heroic challenges. Will they be keeping or altering the Swap Force version, switching it to building Portal Master rank? Portal Master rank, they would not talk about, but I saw, and I think I recorded it multiple times, the Portal Master rank on the gamepad, and then on the screen on the pause menu. One time there was like a little glitch in the game, and it actually popped up on the pause menu somehow, and it was like at 65, so I'm inclined to believe Portal Master rank will be back. Let's see, Yoshi Golems, can you upgrade the villains? I don't know that anyone's talked about this just yet, but the answer I got was yes. Supposedly there's going to be two types of villains. This is more information I've not heard anyone else talk about. There'll be like the standard villains that will have 2 attacks, and then there will be boss villains, which I don't know how you distinguish them. I guess they'll be like tougher villains to beat or something. There'll be like garden variety villains, and then there'll be like the tougher villains, and they will have 3 attacks. So that'll be interesting. Now, the way you upgrade them, from what I understand, it's not going to be traditional. Like go in and buy stuff from Persephone or something. It'll be like done through villain quests, which you're probably going to have to backtrack for. There'll be like certain areas where that villain will have something, and then I guess that will upgrade them in some manner. Not quite sure. They wouldn't give a lot of information, but I did at least get that. Florida Rules, this was from YouTube. He asked about 15 or more times if Eruptor was coming back, and sadly I cannot tell you because they would not tell us. Something that was interesting to me, the freaking official website for Trap Team, it clearly states 16 Trap Masters. Now, I'm not a rocket scientist, but let's see, what does 16 and 8 have in common? Well, that's 8 times 2 is 16. How many elements are there? There's 8. How were the Swap Force figures designated? You had 2 per element. You had Rattleshake and Night Shift. You had Freeze Blade and Washbuckler, Blast Zone and Firecracker. I'm inclined to believe this was nothing officially confirmed, but there's probably going to be 2 Trap Masters per element. Why anyone into the series wouldn't expect the same thing is beyond me, and that's kind of why it was one of those things it was weird they wouldn't talk about to me. Flip side of that, they say clearly on their website, you can go to Skylanders.com/Trap Team right now, and it says 18 all new characters. How that pans out, I'm not quite sure, but that makes me believe that there will be, at minimum, 2 new characters per element, and then 2 that are kind of like wild cards that I don't know about. And then I think at one point in time, and I probably have this documented on my site somewhere, I could have sworn that it also said the number of reposes that they were going to have coming back. So don't hold me to that, but I feel like I've read that and seen that on their site. I think now I'm getting into a combination of YouTube and Dark Spyro. Direct95, I know he's on Dark Spyro. Aside from all the information about the new Skylanders and villains, which is almost sure we will get, sorry we didn't, I would like to know more about things if possible. Adventure packs, we've covered that, so they won't tell us. Are we going to need a Trap Master for each element to 100% the game? Not sure. I did drill them on that by gosh, at launch, don't pull a Stink Bomb Trap Shadow with us. You make it to where one of each element is available at launch so we can access every freaking area and not have to wait until February or March. That's something else they seemed receptive to. Is like, oh, what do you mean? And I was like, remember when Stink Bomb finally came out? No one could get into that area in Chapter 2. So hopefully they do that. I would rather have one of each element as opposed to have my 2 favorite Trap Masters come out at launch. Just make it to where we can do everything at launch, and I'll be a happy person. Another one direct asks, will the hub be the castle leaked from the concept arts? I'm not sure which one he's referring to, but yes, that castle-y thing, it's called the Skylander Academy. That is our new hub world. I have some information on that. They wouldn't give much. I swear I saw T-Bone, and they wouldn't talk about that. He had cool shades. He's my favorite character from SSA that was not playable. I asked about the training ground, and they said that there would be something similar to that, but again, they would give zero details. Again, the hub world came down to their focus groups of children. I told them how SSA remains my favorite game, and I loved how it progressed. You know, you have to go to this guy, Slam Bam, to get some levels, and then Terrafin. And what they said is they found that young kids had trouble. You know, they would want to go, you play your first 3 levels by talking to Slam Bam, and then you go to Slam Bam for the next chapter, and he doesn't have it, and that supposedly confused people. And I guess it was a routine occurrence because that's why they kind of went to the linear progression, you know, where you just go to the same person over and over, and the cutscenes like, oh, go talk to this person, you know, and I guess that's kind of where that came into play. It's supposed to be a massive, massive hub, biggest we've seen thus far. It's supposed to have all kinds of hidden and bonus content in it. You kind of saw that like in Swap Force. As we progressed, we unlocked new areas. There was like certain things you'd kind of magically go to. It was the same way in SSA, honestly. There was like the areas roped off that you gained access to. Some people still probably haven't found all those wing sapphires in SSA. But they claim it will be like a really, really sweet hub world, and you'll probably have access to all the extras from there. And just like in Swap Force, where you had like the little rocket pads to get from one part to the other real quick, they said there'd be something like that to help you navigate it. And they mentioned several of them, so I'm thinking it must be a fairly large hub, as they claim. Will older characters have new quests to complete? I'm 90% sure I got an answer from a guy that quests would be coming back. Now, this is important. Quests are not heroics. Quests are like kill 1,000 enemies, eat 15 pieces of fruit type quests. Don't hold me to that, but I mean, I was talking to him and he kind of said, yeah, that'll be there. And I think I was complaining about the tech Skylanders having to do 25 lockpick puzzles is how we got off on that. Which is cool, but you know, when you have to do that for everybody, not just, you know, Magna Charge and Spire Eyes and your, you know, countdown wind up, but everyone, including your Series 1s, it really gets redundant with 25. So I'm looking out for you. I'm trying to kind of relay some sentiments of the hardcore player base, if you will. Are heroics returning again? They would not comment on that. Will the game be an open world one, a level, or a mix of the twos? It's basically, like I said, because of their focus groups with the kids, they wouldn't even tell me if it's like chapters or levels. They had no comment there. But I'm inclined to believe it'll be pretty much like what we saw in Swap Force, where you go and you've got the certain character that handles what you're going to do. So they want to keep it simple so kids, you know, don't get confused or lost or have to run to their parent, or the parents email Activision customer support, basically. Let's see here. Will we be able to fight against a villain after capturing him? Oh, I think I tried to ask this, and I'm pretty sure I got nowhere. But it's kind of one of those things that I couldn't tell if they were either like giving me a look because they thought that was a really good idea, or if they were giving me a look because it was like, oh, so that people do think that's a cool idea. So I'm not 100% sure there, but that's that. W. George 111, Outlaw Brawl and Chain, trappable target exclusive. Will Hero? Okay. Outlaw Brawl and Chain will be exclusive to Target. Will he be trappable? Brawl and Chain probably will be. Just like Riot Shield Shredder, you'll have Shield Shredder that you can get in the game. Riot's basically like a Dark Blast Zone, a recoloring an in-game variant villain. And that will be exclusive to Target. So that's that. Will heroics done on previous figures count in Trap Team? This is interesting. This is something I wanted to know as well. I believe that the answer is yes. Now, the important thing to note, I talked to a guy that worked closely with Vicarious Visions last year, and that's why we saw some stats totally change, some attacks totally get weak, some got spiked up real big. Toys for Bob and Vicarious Visions apparently have different statistical tables, I guess like the mathematical workings behind the scenes that dictate all of this stuff. And I guess instead of sync them up, they want to keep them separate or something. And so if you've got Jetvac, which you can't see him, but he's here, trust me. If you've got Jetvac and he had all the heroics done, Will he come in and have a speed of 70, we'll say? I don't know. Will he have the box stock speed of a new jetvac at 15, or will he be somewhere in the middle? It's probably going to be one of those deals where there will be record of it, but it might not spike them as much as it did initially. Again, that's kind of speculation on my end, but I did have a guy pretty sure kind of tell me, you know, he wasn't for sure, but, you know, he thought that it must have to recognize it in some way. And so based on what we saw in Swap Force, that's the direction I'm leaning. Ghost Roaster from DarkSpyro.com. Bonus missions and quests returning. Bonus missions, no clue. Quests, I believe so. I know the villains, like I said, will have the specific quests. Heroics, covered that. We don't really know. How does the game support replayability besides difficulty level? Apparently going back through, replaying it, trying to collect everything, things of that nature. That's pretty much on par with the last ones. Portal Master ranking, returning improvements to it. I do believe it's returning improvements. I don't know. Minigame confirmations, walkthrough examples. We've kind of seen like Skystone Smash or Slam. I can't think of what they called it. But that is there. There will probably be a couple others. You have to realize Toys for Bob. Think back to SSA and like all the little kind of offshoot games. There's tons of possibilities here. Achievements, again, that kind of obviously would tie in more, I guess, with the Xbox. I assume Sony has that too. Nintendo currently doesn't really have the same setup, but I would assume that would come back as well, just because it's been done in the previous games. Is the game still based on levels? I assume so, but are they levels or chapters? I don't know. They wouldn't tell me. How many? Don't know. They won't tell me. And then this is something else I asked. Do they have boss only levels? The way I worded this, instead of asking a question direct like that might get rejected, I would phrase it like, hey, in Swap Force, we went through a level, and then we had a separate level where we had, or chapter, where we had to play Glumshanks and Jungle Rumble. Is that something you're doing this time around? Didn't really get anywhere. So their lips are sealed on all of that. I'm sure eventually they'll kind of reveal some of that to us. Are there cool mechanics this time around that we haven't heard? I kind of pitched that towards them, and I mean, they kind of went in like the villain quest, and just mainly, if you ask something like that, it's going to be like, yes, you can trap villains and play as villains. So that's what they wanted to relay to the fan base and the general public, and that's kind of what they stuck to. Let's see here. Character breakdown in terms of new reposes, light cores. Do reposes provide anything new? They're not talking anything about reposes at all. I would assume that they're going like we've seen Shroom Boom and Gilgrunt, you know, they're probably going to be back. I would assume it'll follow format here, you know, where you can switch upgrade pass, or it'll be like a new WoW POW. Who knows? But that's just me assuming that things follow along the same trajectory. Light cores, no clue. We've covered that. Net new, 16 trap masters and 18 what they call brand new. So, I mean, that kind of answers that, but without details, which is probably what you wanted since you had a question. Please reiterate that sequences should be immediately skippable. I actually covered that with them, and some of them didn't know that you couldn't skip them in Swap Force, and I mentioned to them the first one, which is painstakingly long with Rufus after you've beaten the game, and you get welcomed back as a hero of Cloudbreak Islands, and by the time you can skip it, if you actually press the button to skip it, it slows the game loading down, and it takes longer to skip the cutscene than it does to fully watch it. I got the response that yes, they will be skippable. Now, if we're talking about the very first time through, I don't know, but apparently on replaying, I think everything's going to be skippable just like it was SSA and Giants. So that will be nice for many of us, especially when you go through a level for like the 15th time just to level up or get cash or something, you know. Trap costs and bundling. $5.99 single bundling, they don't know. Storage options. Power A wasn't there, which was a bummer to me because I really wanted to see this stuff. I was told that they're probably working on some cool stuff, so I'll run with that. That's speculation, nothing confirmed, but hey, you know, they've done a great job thus far through 3 games. I have no reason to believe that they wouldn't deliver on the 4th. And something I stressed to the guys was like, hey, I mean, people aren't just going to like throw these in a shoebox. I mean, they want something, and I even mentioned like your original trailer. I was like, people will buy that. If you make that box, I don't care if you think it's stupid. If you make that, people are going to pay for it and they will buy it. Collectors will do it to show off their collection. A lot of players with extra income on the side will do it. People will do it to organize their villains. So I did my best to make it known that that is actually something people want. So that's kind of the record I took there. Let's see here. Elementally inspired levels. He was specifically talking undead levels. That goes back to like my 3 favorite levels, which still all the way back in SSA with T-Bone. I brought that up, and I think the answer was no. I'm not sure if they understood what I meant, but I think instead of like having, you know, Cadaver's Crypt or Darklight Crypt or things of that nature where it's like spooky and slimy the whole way through, probably going to be more generic. You know, it's going to be, you're not going to have like Arbo for life and General Robot for tech and things like that. And that's, to me, why SSA is still the best game. But I think it's going to be more, you go through a level and it might start out sunny and bright and meadowy, and then you get into like the tech area, and then there's like the undead spin-offs. It's probably just going to be the layout of the land. I don't know for sure. And again, it was Toys for Bobs that did SSA, which remains my favorite, so hopefully they kind of draw from that. The past isn't like full of bad games that are, you know, just forgotten. I mean, there's people like me, and I think it took some of the people back when I said that. They were like, oh, what's your favorite? And I'm like, SSA. It's like, what? You know, it's not Swap Force or Giant. No, it's the original, and it still is. So hopefully that kind of struck a chord with people. Impact of completed quest heroics on stats, if any. That's the last one from Ghost Roaster. Again, we've covered that. Sadly, no information. Continuing Dark Spyro. This came from Spyro Flame 0487. 0487 may have been mentioned previously, but I think someone needs to ask or grill them about online. Fear not, I did this. It will be in a separate video. It's an idea that I pitched to them. It kind of ties in with the single-player battle mode. You'd like to know more about the traps, $5.99 single packs, bundles, and storage. Covered it. What we can do with them, one villain in a trap, yes. Can we hold other villains in a trap and select them? No, you have to go to the villain vault in the hub world. So, oh, and also about the 3DS, is there going to be another exclusive character? We've covered that. Sadly, I don't know. Relationship with Nintendo, I didn't even go into that. I knew I wouldn't get anywhere. But I was curious as well. And the Nintendo figures, I have a separate video. I'm doing all the Skylanders stuff first, but I did check out the Amiibo figures. Sadly, there was no one there to talk to. They didn't really promote them very well. They were just kind of like in this little case under a giant Mario statue. I will say this, they looked awesome. And again, they'll be used just like these Rumble U figures for Pokemon with the NFC. Essentially that little spot on the gamepad. But I think their relationship with Nintendo is just fine. That's why they have like color shift washbuckler, things of that nature. So, plus valuing the children so much, like they seem to do in all their focus groups and reworking the game and everything, they are probably very much aware Nintendo is kind of the family console. It's what the younger gamers are going to have. There's not many 5-year-olds who are going to be like, oh yeah, you know, I've got my Xbone so I can play Halo and Call of Duty. It's like, oh, I've got my Nintendo so I can play Mario Kart, you know. So I think they're very much aware of that. I know the guys at Vicarious Visions were. Last year I talked to them about something similar, and their response was really Nintendo was the only one making family games.